Rome, before noon marble gleams under haze. And the city feels uneasy. Everything looks ordinary, but the air is tight, like breath held too long. This is not a battlefield. It is Rome's civic stage for law and ceremony, yet today, politics will strike like steel fast, close, and without debate, Caesar has risen too high. And the Republic feels suddenly fragile. A conspiracy forms the way storms form. Silence, pressure, then sudden movement. Men who once served Caesar decide the state cannot survive with him alive, and they search for a place where violence can be sold as necessity. They choose the Senate meeting on the Ides of March. It's an ordinary marker until it becomes infamous. Marble, witnesses. Ceremony, the perfect stage for an act that can be called justice instead of murder. Outside, Rome wakes as usual, vendors setting goods, sandals tapping stone, voices rising. But under the routine, a hidden countdown moves through the city. And every familiar sound carries a sharper edge. In private rooms, warnings arrive in fragments, anxious faces, uneasy dreams, half-spoken advice. None of it is enough alone. But together it forms a pattern that should slow any Manon. Less power has momentum. Power has its own gravity. Caesar keeps his schedule, dismisses the pressure, and chooses to go. Once he steps outside, the day begins moving faster than anyone can stop. Pulled forward by decisions already made, the conspirators position themselves like chess pieces placed hours earlier. Each man knows distance, angle, timing. They do not rush. They wait for stone walls and ceremony to make violence look like public duty. The approach is bright sunlight, then sudden shadow beneath columns. Footsteps echo on marble, and in such rooms, even ordinary movement becomes a signal. Senators gather in clusters. Carefully composed, faces stay controlled, voices stay measured. But bodies betray tension, a turned shoulder, a hand held too close to cloth, a glance that lasts half a second too long. The room feels cooler than it should. Caesar enters, and the hall tightens. Not physically, but like a mind closing around fear. No one can see the whole room at once, and that is the danger. Threats hide in angles and crowds. Petitioner steps forward with a documentan excuse to move closer without suspicion. The tactic is simple. Block movement, command attention, create a moment where the center cannot step away. Caesar refuses. The petitioner persists. The crowd leans in toward conflict, and conflict compresses space until choices become reactions. Men step forward, not running, walking, controlled, rehearsed. Cloth shifts. Hands dip. A brief glint of metal appears, small blades meant for close work. In an instant, the day crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed, and the hall becomes an echoing storm. Caesar turns, confused, unable to map the room beyond the nearest threat. Confusion multiplies. Every movement creates another angle, another shadow, another danger. The circle tightens by inches. In the crush, even loyalty becomes hazardous. No ally can reach the center safely. And the crowd itself becomes a barrier. Chairs scrape. Sandals slip on dust. Breaths turn sharp and fast. Power falls without a speechenly wait and sudden absence. A laurel wreath lies on stone, authority reduced to an object. The room goes quiet in the way a city goes quiet after a shock. For a heartbeat, the conspirators expect approval. They look around for applause, for gratitude, for relief. Instead, they meet distance faces, withdrawing, bodies stepping back. A silence that condemns. Rome does not cheer. Rome freezes, struggling to process the impossible. In that moment, people do not see liberty. They see violence in a sacred room and the rules failing in public. The conspirators step outside into daylight, carrying a narrative they hope will hold. The sun is unchanged, but the world has shifted. In the streets, rumor becomes wildfired. Tales vanish. Fear remains. Nobody knows everything. Everyone knows enough to be afraid. Politics turns into survival overnight, and uncertainty becomes a weapon. Institutions bend under pressure. Bent too far, they do not spring back. Removing a ruler is simple. Replacing legitimacy is slow work measured in years. Supporters demand revenge, rivals demand recognition. The city begins dividing into camps that refuse to trust. The body is carried through Rome. The crowd follows like a tide. Grief blends with anger, and once mixed, emotions become fuel. People clutch small offerings, tokens that suddenly feel heavy with meaning. Speeches begin, and words become instruments, not explanations. A single spark can turn mourning into riot, and riot into irreversible momentum. Streets tighten, shoulder to shoulder. The city becomes one tense body. The streets become a parliament of bodies. When institutions wobble, crowds become the measure of legitimacy, and every faction tries to steer the same mass toward its own version of order. The conspirators misread the room. They thought they removed a tyrant. Instead, they removed the center. Power hates a vacuum, and Rome begins searching for the next strong hand to promise certainty. When people fear chaos, they often choose control even if it costs freedom. Alliances shift in hours. Yesterday's friends become liabilities. Promises become bargaining chips, and bargaining becomes intimidation. Names become banners. Banners become armies. Arguments become civil war. The Republic was weakened long before this day. This day is simply the snap the moment the strain becomes a break. One blade did not end the Republic. Years of fear and ambition prepared the fall. You can remove a man, not a crisis. The conditions that made Caesar powerful remain unchanged, hungry, unresolved. Legitimacy is fragile. Violence cracks it easily when it enters the room, and it cannot be repaired quickly. No matter how confident speeches sound afterward, trust takes years. Panic takes minutes. The Ides of March becomes a hinge in history quiet, in minutes loud for decades. The Republic's door swings toward empire, not because the plan was perfect, but because chaos demands a new center. Whoever offers order gains followers, resources, and permission to act. Systems break when fear and ambition share the same room without restraint. Intention is not outcome. Outcome is what survives. Look at the setting. Marble, columns, ceremonious civilization's finest room. Remember that even the finest room can host the darkest act, and that consequences outlive the men who begin them. The weapon is small, concealed, intimate. It conquers no armies. Yet it can change a system, and systems outlive the men who strike. Caesar dies once. Rome pays repeatedly through unrest and war. Here is the blunt lesson. Political violence rarely ends what it begins. Removing a leader does not remove the crisis. It often multiplies it. Crisis searches for a new center, someone to promise certainty. That is how republics become empires. By trading instability for control. Some moments cannot be reversed. They can only be absorbed and survived. Sometimes it starts with a document and one step too close. So ask the uncomfortable question, was this patriotism or miscalculation? Did they save the Republic or damage it beyond repair in one decisive hour? In politics, good motives do not protect outcomes. One day, one hall, one circle of blades, then years of fallout. History turns without asking permission at moments like these, when a single choice flips the future's direction like a slammed door. After the first shock, the chain of consequences is the real story. Once it starts pulling, it drags everyone innocent or guilty into the same unstable future. In the comments, was the assassination inevitable or could it have been avoided? If one decision changed that morning, does the Republic last longer? Subscribe for the next turning point at the crossroads. Another room, another decision, another chain reaction that reshapes everything afterward. History changes fastest at the hinge where one moment flips the direction of what comes next.